everybody. Welcome back for another week of online Sunday school. This week we're going to finish up our current series, and our big idea is still that because Jesus offers us his peace, we should have peace flowing through our lives. And this week in particular, our big idea is that because we are called to be peacemakers, we should have peace flowing through our lives. And our memory verse, our last week for this memory verse, it says, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid." It's found in John 14:27. And so this week, like I said, we're going to be talking about how we are supposed to be peacemakers and what really is a peacemaker. You know, a peacemaker is someone who makes peace. You know, in a bad situation, you know, if you're a peacemaker, you can help bring some good, some peace into that situation. And if we're peacemakers, we should be looking to just make peace in general rather than causing trouble or making fights. You know, if we're being peacemakers, we should be bringing good things into, you know, our life and into situations, into other people's lives. So we're going to continue talking a little bit more about that. Sister Kellyanna is going to go ahead and give us our next lesson.
Hi everyone, I'm here with my friends Hank and Petunia. Say
hello, good morning.
hello, friends. All right, good morning, guys. Well, I have a story to share with you today.
Hello, story.
Are you guys ready to hear a story? All right. So, my story is about a boy named Billy. It says, Billy doesn't like Tuesdays. He goes to school, but he would rather stay home and sleep in. When he walks to the bathroom, he notices his little sister left her toothbrush out on the counter. He yells at her to come and put it away.
That's no big deal.
And then when Billy gets on the bus, a new kid in the neighborhood is sitting in Billy's normal seat. Billy makes a big deal out of it and tells the boy to move. The boy is embarrassed and he goes to another seat. Later at school, Billy is in line at the drinking fountain. A boy behind him asks if he can cut in front of Billy because he's thirsty and his throat, it hurts. Billy tells the boy to wait in line like everybody else, and he gets his drink first. At recess, a girl asks Billy if she would mind moving over to the next open swing because she and her friend really wanted to swing together. Billy tells her he was there first, and her friend should be the one to find another swing, not him. At home that night, Billy's mom asks him to help with the dishes, and he tells her he shouldn't have to because it's not one of his chores. Billy's sent to bed early. He gets up tomorrow and does it all again. But he doesn't like Wednesdays either. Oh, what a silly story that is.
Oh,
Billy was just not having a great day.
Like a rotten boy.
He sounds kind of like a rotten boy. It sounds like he got up on the wrong side of the bed. It sounds like he wasn't being a peacemaker, right?
Not at all.
No, it sounds like he was just fishing for trouble. He was doing no good, and he was in a bad mood, so he made sure everybody else was in a bad mood with him. Well, Jesus doesn't want us to be that way, right?
Not at all.
Yeah, no, he doesn't want us to be like that. He wants us to have peace in our lives, peace flowing through our lives. He has called us to be peacemakers, and Billy was the exact opposite of a peacemaker. So do you think you can help me out, and let's figure out how Billy could have made this day better if he was a peacemaker?
Sure thing.
Okay, so it starts off by saying that he would rather just stay home and sleep in. When he walks to the bathroom, his little sister Les left his toothbrush out on the counter, and he yells at her. What do you think Billy could have done instead of yelling at her?
Well, that one's an easy one to fix. Just put it away.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of making a big fuss, it's so easy. Just pick up your toothbrush, put it away. Instead of causing a big fight and not bringing peace into the morning, Right, that's great. Good job, Hank. So then he gets on the bus and there is a new kid in his normal seat and he yells at that kid and he embarrasses that kid until he moves. What do you think he could have done differently there?
Well, he could have just sat down with the boy. I would love to sit down on the bus and make new friends. I try and sit with someone new every morning.
That's absolutely wonderful, Petunia. And that's what I was thinking when I was reading that story. Well, geez, he could have sat down next to the boy and made a new friend. And you know what? He could talk to that friend about Jesus and how Jesus allows him to have peace in his life. What a great opportunity to be a peacemaker and to be an example to someone. But Billy didn't choose to do that. If he did, he would have been a lot more happy that day. So later on at the drinking fountain, he yells, well, he doesn't yell, I'm sorry, but he tells this kid who has a hurt throat, no, I'm drinking first, and doesn't let this kid who has a hurt throat drink. What could he have done differently?
Well, this one's an easy one too. Seems like this guy didn't have any brain in his head. He could have said, oh, go ahead, cut in front of me. He was gonna get a drink from the fountain anyway.
Exactly, right? He was already in line. He was gonna get a drink anyway. And this kid, his throat was hurting. You could be nice. You could show God's love and peace and say, sure, you can grab a drink, because how long does it really take to get a drink from the drinking fountain? Not that long at all. All right, so our next scenario, he was at recess and a girl asked him to move swings. And he said, no, you go find new swings instead of just getting up and moving to the next swing over. It's a little rude. How do you think he could have fixed that?
Well, I think you already answered that one for us, Sister Juliana. He could have gotten up and moved to the next swing over.
Exactly, right? There was an empty swing next to him. He so easily could have just been, yeah, let me move over. You two can be on these swings. I can be on these swings. Everybody gets to be happy. That's what being a peacemaker is all about, right? We want to bring happiness and joy and peace into every situation. And Billy just wasn't doing that day. So we end our story with Billy at home, and his mother asks him to do the dishes. And he says, nope, not doing it. It's not one of my chores. But guess what? He kind of gets in trouble, and he gets sent to bed early. Well, what could have he done different, Hank?
Do the dishes. You are supposed to obey your parents. That's in the Bible.
Right, exactly. So not only was Billy not being a peacemaker here, but he was disobeying the 10 Commandments by disobeying his parents and not just doing the dishes. He could have avoided a punishment. He could have gone to bed super happy. Maybe his mom, oh, thank you for doing the dishes. Here's some extra dessert. You don't know, right? But he was just making himself miserable, and he was making everyone else around him miserable.
What a shame!
Yeah, what a shame. Thank you so much, Hank and Petunia, for helping me with this story and helping me talk about how Billy could have just made his day 100% better if he was being a peacemaker, just like God calls us to be. In a minute here, Brother Dean is going to take over, and he's going to have a Bible lesson for us. Bye, guys. Oh, hey there, everyone. I was just studying up on our Bible lesson for today. We have a story about a book of the Bible and the man who wrote that book in the Bible, and the man that we're going to be talking about, and the book of the Bible that we are going to be talking about today is the book of James. James was a very special guy. He was actually Jesus's brother. So James really loved his brother Jesus. So you can imagine when Jesus passed away, he was very, very sad. But when Jesus came back and proved to them that he was the Messiah, he came back and he opened all their eyes. All the people realized that this was the truth and this was the way. James was one of those people who instantly believed because it was his brother. And he loved his brother, and he knew his brother was something special. So when Jesus came back, he decided, after Jesus had ascended to heaven once again, that he was going to open up churches and help bring all the people of the world into Jesus and bring them to the truth, bring them to salvation. So he started the very first church, one of the very first churches over in Jerusalem. And he loved to be in God's presence. He loved to share the word of Jesus. He loved to be amongst the church people. because there was so much joy, peace, love. There was such a great spirit about being in church. And I think you and I can both agree, when we come into the house of God on Sundays and we're doing our worship service and we're listening to our pastor preach, we get really excited. It feels really nice to be all together in Jesus's presence. And that's how James had felt. And so as the leader of the churches, he loved to hear really good reports. He wanted to hear that the people were following God's word, that the people were in great moods and good spirits, that they were happy and they were doing really good. Well, one day, James got a report that the church was not doing good. You guys know the fruits of the Spirit, right? We have those fruits of the Spirit, and I am going to tell you how they were acting. They were not showing the fruits of the Spirit. Instead of love, the fruit of the Spirit of love, they were hating each other. And that is definitely not good. We're not supposed to hate. Instead of having joy, all the people were filled with sadness. Instead of having peace, people were fighting. Instead of long suffering or patience, people had really short tempers. Everything was making them angry. Instead of having gentleness, people were being really mean to each other. Instead of having goodness, people were being really selfish. They were taking everything for themselves and they were not treating other people kindly. Instead of having faith and trusting in God to provide, the people were jealous of other people's things. They were wanting what other nations had, what other people had, what their neighbors had. They weren't just being joyful with what God had given them. Instead of having meekness, which means feeling small, not being proud, and being really showy and acting like you're all that hot stuff. Instead of being meek, they were proud and arrogant. Instead of showing temperance, they were gluttonous and indulging in everything of the world. They were not doing what God had asked them to do, what God had called them to do. They were not reflecting the fruits of the Spirit. So when James heard this, he was really sad in his heart and he didn't know what to do. So he decided there was only one thing he could do, and that was pray. So he went and he prayed to Jesus and he said, "What do you want me to do? I have all these men and women in my church and they're very worldly. They're not doing what you want them to be doing. What can I do?" James was really sad. He didn't know what to do. And finally, James remembered some of Jesus's words that we can find in Matthew 5:9. It says, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God." And James realized he needed to be a peacemaker for the people of that church. He needed to help those people who were fighting, who were hating each other. He needed to help them find a peaceful solution. He needed to help them not to be jealous, to be prideful. So God spoke into James' heart. Jesus spoke into James' heart, and he encouraged him to write the Epistle of James, which is in the New Testament. He wrote a whole book, and he wrote that book for the church of the people of Jesus. He wanted them to know how to behave as a church. So he wrote this book, and unlike us now, we can make a video like this and I can send it out and it can go all over the world in a matter of minutes. But unlike this, he had to write and take all the time to write this book. And then he had to give it to church after church after church. And it's still coming from church to church. It's in our church. It's in every church across America. It's the Epistle of James explaining how he wants the people to act. So James's letter told them that their actions were wrong and that they needed to be humble because God gives grace to the humble. But is against people that are proud. So he wanted the people to be humble, to be grateful for their relationship with God, but not be proud and arrogant and rude to other people who didn't have it. And he wanted them to love one another. So James understood that if you're humble, that if you're a peacemaker, God will honor your actions. And he calls you a child of God. And that's what he wanted the churches to know. So that's our story about the book of James and the man who wrote the book of James. It was our reminder to have love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, faithfulness, all the fruits of the Spirit. He wanted us to remember how to behave as a church, and it's a great book of the Bible. So, with that being said, I have a fun song that I want to share with you so you guys can get up and dance to the fruits of the Spirit.
The fruit of the Spirit's not a coconut. Fruit of the Spirit's not a coconut. If you wanna be a coconut, you might as well hear it. You can't be a fruit of the Spirit, cause the fruit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, and gentleness, and self-control. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, and gentleness, and self-control. Oh, the fruit of the Spirit's not a banana. The fruit of the Spirit's not a banana. You wanna be a banana? You might as well hear it. You can't be a fruit of the Spirit, cause the fruit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, and gentleness, and self-control. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, and gentleness, and self-control. Oh, the fruit of the Spirit's not a watermelon. The fruit of the Spirit's not a watermelon. If you wanna be a watermelon, you might as well hear it. You can't be a fruit of the Spirit, cause the fruit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, and gentleness, and self-control. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, and gentleness, and self-control. Oh, the fruit of the Spirit's not a lemon. The fruit of the Spirit's not a lemon. If you wanna be a lemon, you might as well hear it. You can't be a fruit of the Spirit, cause the fruit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, and gentleness, and self-control. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, and gentleness, and self-control. Oh, the fruit of the Spirit's not a cherry. The fruit of the Spirit's not a cherry. If you wanna be a cherry, you might as well hear it. You can't be a fruit of the Spirit, cause the fruit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, and gentleness, and self-control. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, and gentleness, and self-control. Okay, everybody knows that grapes come in bunches, so everybody get in big bunches. The fruit of the Spirit's not a grape. The fruit of the Spirit's not a grape. You wanna be a grape, you might as well hear it. You can't be a fruit of the Spirit, cause the fruit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, and gentleness, and self-control. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, and gentleness, and self-control. The fruit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, and gentleness, and self-control. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, and gentleness, and self-control. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, and gentleness, and self-control. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, and gentleness, and self-control.
All right, guys, we just had fun listening to the Fruits of the Spirit song, and we had fun with our entire lesson. It's coming to an end. It's wrapping up, and we're going to close in prayer now. We had our lesson about the book of James and the man James himself, and how God spoke into his heart telling him he needs to be a peacemaker. And how he became a peacemaker was writing a whole book of the Bible, which is pretty incredible. Sister Kellyanna shared with us a story about a boy who was not very peaceful, and Petunia and Hank helped her to realize and see and show you how this boy could have been really peaceful and a peacemaker. And then Brother Dion, of course, he opened up our whole lesson and explained to us what we were going to be talking about. And that is being a peacemaker, having peace and showing peace to others around you. So I want to take some time before we end all together to pray together and help us, each one of us, to remember how important it is to be a peacemaker. So when mom and dad ask you to do the dishes or do your chores, or your teacher tells you to do something you don't really like, instead of getting angry about it, puffing and going like this and pouting and being angry and mad, we need to have peace. And we need to be a peacemaker. We don't want to start fights with our brothers and our sisters, our moms, our dads, our teachers. We want to be peaceful. So let's pray that we can all remember how important that is. I know that I could always use the reminder to be peaceful and to make sure I'm not starting any arguments that don't need to be had. All right. God loves to hear you use your own words. So go ahead and use your words. And I am going to pray along with you guys. So let's ask God to help us. Jesus, we love you so much. Thank you for the lesson that you have given each one of us today. I know that each one of us have learned more about you and more about what you want from us, Jesus. And I know what you want from us, Jesus, is to be full of peace and to be peacemakers. When we are peacemakers, when we have the fruits of the Spirit in our lives, I know that we're reflecting you, that we are showing that you are living with us. So I pray that I and each person watching this video can remember to be peacemakers. When something comes along that makes us angry, we need to take a step back and say, how can I be peaceful in this situation? It's so important that we're not full of hatred, anger, pride, and that we're not being rude to other people, but that we're showing and reflecting your peace, because that's how we are going to be able to reach our friends and reach our family, if we're full of peace and we are full of love. So I pray that we can remember that as we continue to go on into the next week and throughout our lives. And I also want to pray right now that we can come back together to our Sunday school classroom very soon. We know that great things are in the works. So why don't you join with me and give some praise to God, because he is doing great things all the time. Jesus, thank you so much for all the great things you do. We are so blessed by you, God. And we know that even though situations might look tough or hard, it's all in your hands. You have everything under control, and we love you so very much. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us for Sunday school, and I can't wait until next week. See you later. Bye.